The Chinese internet portal Sohu.com made a fun little infographic titled "The Immoral and Dishonest Chinese," obviously poking fun at the immoral and dishonest Americans editorial over at the People's Daily. The infographic identified 10 types of Chinese travelers or immigrants that give the rest of the world a very bad impression of Chinese people or even China in general. Now, the first category, a group that perhaps you're familiar with, are the upstarts, defined as someone who risen suddenly from a low position to wealth and power. The infographic states that Chinese upstarts only buy the most expensive items and that during the October long holiday of 2011, Chinese upstarts spent 2.6 billion euros in Europe on luxury products. These upstarts are also known to buy expensive foreign real estate and drive expensive cars, especially sports cars, for their often irresponsible children. And moving on, next we have Chinese tourists who like to leave their names at tourist sites. Now, last week, a story of a teenager in Nanjing who carved his name in a 3,500-year-old Egyptian relic made huge waves over the Chinese internet. Chinese users used all of their resources and identified the boy who went on a trip to Egypt a few years ago while in grade school. His parents came out to apologize on his behalf, and Chinese internet users denounced his actions as having severely damaged the image and reputation of Chinese travelers. And lastly, there are those who the infographic describes as legally blind, meaning they're blind to the law. The website describes them as those who smoke in no-smoking areas, like to get into scuffles, they spit on the ground, and they also like to touch things in the museum, even when there's a sign that says, "Do not touch." All right, so obviously a lot of Chinese people know that their compatriots are not behaving themselves when they travel abroad. But what opinions do they have about it, and what do they think of the Sohu infographic? Let's take a look.
There's 1.3 billion people in China. Of course, there's going to be some bad apples. Don't think of them as people that represent the country. I sure don't want them to represent me. This is a problem with our education. We only care about test scores, but we never learn about proper behavior. There should be a form of assessment for those who are planning on traveling abroad. Those who are at greater risk of causing the country embarrassment should not be allowed to leave the country. I believe that once you step outside the borders, then you are a representative of your country. People that drag down the image of the country should be made an example of. We can unmask these perpetrators, but I think instead there should be more positive energy. We should help them understand that they are causing embarrassment with their actions.
The poor behaviors of Chinese tourists are a growing concern in China, not only for the Chinese public who find it embarrassing, but also to the country's top leaders who feel that perhaps it's harming the image of the country. Wang Yang, one of China's 4 deputy prime ministers, even commented that while other countries had welcomed Chinese tourism, he admitted that the quality of some Chinese travelers were not very high.